Howdy, welcome back to the RedAss podcast. This is your co-host, Rob White, fighting Texas Aggie class of 2014.
And Roy May fight Texas Aggie class 2015, and it is bye-week version.
Bye week. Let's go. I'm so excited. We get to take a week off. Non-consequential football this next week.
Get to just watch a day, enjoy it. You have to kind of tune into whatever games you want to. Tune completely out. Go out to the woods. Go camping. Go fishing.
Yeah, go have some fun.
I am picking up the boat this weekend.
Nice.
So I may not catch a whole lot of college football, but we were talking about this before we hit record. This kind of comes at a really good time for us relative to the injuries we have to Spiller. Like I said, as Spiller goes, so this team goes, which includes the offensive line, obviously.
Right.
Which you got 4 games. You got 6 coming up on the back end, so the stretch is a little longer. But you've already played Bama.
Right.
You've already played the physicality of Bama. And so you look at the 6 games you have left, and what a great opportunity to have this week to get healthy, to go on that run and make, and go on that stretch and make that run. So it's, I kind of like how it is. I mean, it would have been great if it was perfectly right in the middle, 5 games played, then a bye, then 5. But I'm okay with it, especially when you look at the teams we have left.
Right, exactly. I mean, we've got ourselves really at this point. If for those of you who've been paying attention to the rankings, which at this point of the year still don't matter. But there's not a single ranked team left on A&M's schedule at this point, with the losses that we will discuss here in a minute. But Texas A&M at this point is just numbers free for the rest of the year for now.
And you look at it, and that may stay that way because we have the Big Ten getting ready to start playing again, right?
Right.
And so a lot of these rankings aren't including teams that aren't playing.
Right.
So once these guys get thrown back in, which is total trash because they're coming in, weeks into the season and expect to get ranked.
It's horse shit. It's not cool.
But you may not see these teams be able to turn around and get back into the top 25, and if you do, they'll kind of be squeaking in kind of thing.
Right, and there's going to be a lot of questions about the validity of them being in their positions because they don't really have, as we've already talked about, the other measuring sticks other than playing against each other. At the point where it's just, you don't really understand outside of a handful of teams what their talent level is. Ohio State's going to be good. Penn State's probably going to be pretty decent.
Michigan's going to be above average and lose to Ohio State.
As they always do. I mean, it's just tales old as time.
Like
right?
death in Texas.
Death in Texas. Oregon will probably be fine. I mean, USC should be okay. But it's just there's a lot of teams that it's going to be really hard for them to really build resumes to get up ahead of the rest of us that have already been playing.
Well, and the problem is I see the counterpoint of this being we knew what we had with this team, so even though they have less games, we can still justify putting them high in the polls, which is where you're going to get a ton of pushback from all of us who've already been playing football,
right,
like big boys, and who are capable of doing these things and actually making plans and following through with athletic seasons, while you guys just sit on your effing thumbs. And so it's going to be interesting how it ends up in the polls, and that's why. Like some of the polls that have popped out, and a lot of the sports writers, and they've included the Big Ten, they've included this kind of other stuff. Like everybody wants to complain about it, but you better get ready for it,
right?
Because you better get ready for Ohio State to just get dropped in the top 5, like it's like a paratrooper, just bloop.
Right. All right, so we can definitely kind of roll with what we've been talking about. Kind of highlight some games this past week, and we'll definitely get into our game, of course. But some interesting games that took place this past week. I know we didn't really analyze a lot of games that were coming in that were not SEC games, but a couple of local-ish games that really went that were pretty interesting. SMU and Tulane went into overtime, and SMU won that.
There was some really good football from the G5 conferences.
Yeah,
the Memphis game was fun to watch. I caught that game. It was a blast to watch.
Right.
But like the 3 games around football that I noticed because they matter, kind of thing. Obviously, the North Carolina game. I don't think even if you had Florida State covering, I'm not sure you have Florida State winning. No. And even if you have Florida State winning, I don't think you have Florida State embarrassing North Carolina. No. So that was, you want to talk about getting up off the mat at like 9. At the 9 count, you're up off the at and you're ready to go, like straight out of Rocky.
Right.
Florida State was just done. They weren't playing football. I mean, they were dressing up like football players and going on trips, but they weren't playing football. And then just out of nowhere, I don't know. I don't know how to take that relative to how you perceive North Carolina.
Right, and you got to wonder. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw much from the video or any of that, but I mean, I'm not sure how much crowd factor had to play in it because Florida State was running pretty much open as far as the number of people in the stands. It was, I won't say it was 100% capacity, but it was pretty full.
Well, the state of Florida, I remember seeing this week 1 in the NFL.
Right.
It was Jacksonville. Like, they panned out to the crowd. I was like, wait a minute.
There's people here.
Oh, Florida's doing shit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might help. But that was just kind of a thumping.
It was weird. It was a weird game.
That was goofy. The other one was Clemson. The only reason I say that is Clemson. I think Clemson is scarier than we even thought they were.
Yeah, I mean, you come out and you beat somebody. You put up a 70 spot on a team in your conference.
Yeah, a Power 5 team, and I don't care. They might be the bottom of the ACC, but a team with like the rich tradition and program that Georgia Tech possesses to go out there and just get curb stomped.
Yeah, I mean, they were 2-2 coming into the game.
What do you have? 391 yards passing in the first half.
Whatever. Yeah. It was ridiculous. Yeah, he ended up finishing with 404 yards.
Yeah,
passing.
He was in for one series in the second half.
It's stupid.
So Clemson and Alabama, right?
Absolutely rolled. So I do want to touch on one other.
Notre Dame is the one I want to talk about.
Exactly. Notre Dame and Louisville. Final score 12-7.
I think we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Louisville isn't that good of a football team.
No.
And was it in Louisville or was it in South Bend?
It was in South Bend.
It's in South Bend. That's, I mean, I got to be honest. I feel like that exposes Notre Dame, which again is not the most surprising thing on the planet for Notre Dame to get exposed in their schedule.
No, I mean, we had
ranked super high.
Right.
It's a love fest with Notre Dame. It always has been.
But you had 2 quarters where scoring took place. You had 2 field goals in the first, and then you had a touchdown from Louisville in the third quarter, which gave them the lead. A touchdown from Notre Dame, which gave them the lead for the rest of the game. I guess they went for 2 and missed. Yeah, failed it. So final score 12-7.
Dude, Notre Dame, top 5 team?
Yeah, they're number 4.
Yeah, number 4 team against Louisville, who always tends to at least have an offense.
Right.
Put up 19 points combined. Like, what a crap football game. And it's not like it was a torrential downpour. No. There wasn't ice on the field. It was just really crappy football. And I get that the good teams sometimes will play bad, but we just talked about Clemson against a bad team going out and do what they do.
Exactly.
You look at the best teams and they go out and take care of business. And Louisville, if I remember correctly, Louisville still had a shot to pull even or go ahead. I mean, they had the ball late.
Yeah, they had chances.
So I don't know if it's Notre Dame just had they stepped on their own toe, or if yet again Notre Dame is overranked. And I'll always err towards the latter because I think Notre Dame is always overranked.
Well, you see them every year, and it's the
same story.
They made the playoff and a few years ago, and Clemson absolutely curb stomped them.
It's just and in the playoffs, and I get that college football is interesting because you really only have 2 or 3 legitimate teams in a given year.
Right.
So you're going to have a 4th that gets in the playoff and is going to have a rough go of it because we have to be fair and we have to make sure we include the other conferences in the playoffs because otherwise they're going to be all boo-boo lipped. So that's why you see Oklahoma hasn't won a playoff game yet.
Yeah,
and they really haven't been competitive in a playoff game yet.
Not really, no.
You saw Notre Dame do it and got stomped on. So it's one of those things where it's almost the pollster is trying to push a narrative to get Notre Dame to be in the cycle of those teams that aren't the SEC and the Big Ten.
Right.
And you saw when they won the playoffs, and then you just saw that Louisville game, and I think it kind of speaks for itself that yet again they're overrated. And we here at Texas A&M know all about overrated teams.
Trust us.
And we've seen it plenty. We know everything about it, and it gets to the point where it's not even fun to watch it fail. Though it's upsetting because. Unfortunately, the human polls do play a part in this.
They do.
It's not just computer analysis. This isn't the old BCS system that was literally an algorithm.
Right.
So it's frustrating. You got a number 4 team, and again, maybe they just had a bad day, but I don't think they just had a bad day.
No.
But I don't want to sit here and talk about Notre Dame a ton. That's for sure.
Not
a not a fighting Irish friggin' blog.
Not a chance. So let's move into real football. Let's touch on some SEC games. So first one of the day, which was kind of one of the early shocks. Actually, there were 3 of them. 3 big shocks on the day, really. Let's go ahead and kick it off with South Carolina hosting Auburn. Won that game.
Well, not a shock though.
Now
that we have that game of data plus all the other data, this is not that big of a shock.
No.
Did they win a game they probably weren't supposed to? Yeah, but is it overly surprising? No. Bo Nix isn't the answer at Auburn.
Right.
That's all there is to it. And it's what is it? Early mid-October. Gus Malzahn must be on the hot seat.
Again, every year it feels like.
But I don't think it was that surprising, especially when you saw the glimpses from South Carolina from some of the other games.
Right.
But yeah, Kentucky Tennessee was one I wasn't surprised with either.
Well, about to say, I was surprised a little bit by the scoreline. Final score was 34-7. You had a ranked team at home, 18, lose to Kentucky 34-7 at home.
Again, some of this ranking stuff is people are guessing.
Well, which we get that, but still.
But a lot of people got talked into a lot of teams.
Right.
A lot of us got talked into at least us covering the spread against Alabama, right?
Right. And
because what we thought, what we were building from the year before.
Right.
But Tennessee is one of those teams that I think they got a lot more hype. And they have a lot less substance than they have hype. And boy, you want to talk about some pain. The pain train is coming from Alabama.
Well, and speaking of trains and derailing trains, the lane train kind of had a bit of a derail at Arkansas.
I did pick Ole Miss to win, but it's not surprising in the sense that I think over the last couple of weeks, anybody's been paying attention to the SEC as a whole. You haven't just been watching A&M and looking at box scores. I think you have seen this legitimate and very visual and tangible improvement at Arkansas.
No doubt.
And I said this, it might have been this morning on Twitter, just because I'm so sick of everybody talking about the Arkansas game. Look, I think Sam Pittman is the guy in Arkansas.
Oh, for sure.
But I don't think this is the year.
No, it'll be a year or two from now.
Pittman will get that on track, and that A&M Arkansas series will get to be heated, and it'll be a lot of fun. But this isn't the year. So please stop doing this whole look what they just did. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, dude. Ole Miss had 7 turnovers. And they had 9 shots inside the 5, and still almost won the game.
Right. They trailed by 12 points. There at the end, but still
they had all the opportunities in the world.
Yeah.
And so what
it doesn't help when your quarterback throws 6 picks.
That's impressive.
You have two touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. At some point, you got to realize that your team was wearing white that day.
Yeah, that's just brutal.
Come on, man.
You're like, wow, he threw for 340 and 2 touchdowns with 6 picks. What does that do to your QB rating?
Yeah, it's not good.
But you look at Arkansas and where they've been successful over the last 3 weeks, and before this past week, it was only in a half. They didn't have successful games. They weren't putting it together. But then this is where you can look at the box score. Their turnover margin has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Arkansas is plus 1 million over the last 3 weeks.
Which is, same thing with Kentucky too. If we're going on that same.
Yeah.
I think somebody said there was a stat early in the Tennessee game where Kentucky at one point, out of the last 16 drives, 10 of them ended in a turnover plus for Kentucky. That's crazy to me. That's just talking about being a ball hawk, being situationally aware. Now, like I said, Arkansas picked off Ole Miss quite a bit. I think we can definitely look at that game and think, okay, well, there's a lot of strategy we can play into, and really something we don't have to worry about too much because we're going to be relying on the run game quite a bit to set it up.
Well, yeah, but you also look at Kentucky and who they play. They just played Tennessee, who clearly has turnover issues. They played Mississippi State the week before, which we know have turnover issues,
right?
And not to mention blocking issues.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, they're absolutely 100% in the Ole Miss game,
right?
So. Some of this stuff we have to take these stats with a grain of salt, considering who they play. Now that we have more than 1 or 2 weeks on our belt, we can identify the offenses that are high flying and can't hold on to the ball.
Right.
And that's kind of who Kentucky's played.
Right.
So, and same with Arkansas.
Right.
So their turnover margin being really high, some of it is absolutely credited to the defense.
Right.
100% fair. You can throw a duck up in the air, but if the quarterback isn't in the, we saw the LSU Missouri game.
Right.
That dude was just kind of throwing lob balls. He was back there playing 500 with his receivers. And I don't know if that dates me. Did you play?
No,
500?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so 500 still a thing.
Jackpot.
Yeah, jackpot. Yeah, he's just back there throwing balls up in the air.
Right.
And they literally weren't even close enough to even think about making a play.
Right.
So, and kudos to the defense being there, but again, we all got to take these ridiculous turnover stats with a grain of salt, and that's where. And we'll get into the Arkansas thing. I'm really not concerned. And we don't have to get into it a ton because
we have plenty of time to.
We have plenty of time. We'll touch on a couple things.
But and then I guess the game of the century, as everybody was wanting to call it again, you had Alabama and Georgia. Which let's just go ahead and face it, we were both dead on about it. Alabama's Alabama, and Alabama's going to keep being Alabama until they're not.
And you know what? And this isn't the first time. Georgia put up a lot of fight. Georgia looked good. They were in the game, but there comes a point where the ridiculously superior talent that's on Alabama's roster wins out. And what is it? Michi, isn't that his name? Isn't that how you pronounce it? Their wide receiver. And Waddle. Like, you have those two guys are on the field at the same time. Oh, not to mention you have Najee Harris. Like, so, and you've got a quarterback that, eventually he's going to get paid by the NFL to be a quarterback because he's a bit of he can run. He's faster than Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't throw like Peyton Manning, but he's really good. He's a really good quarterback, well above average. He can run when he absolutely needs to. And then you combine that with the fact of all world talent at the skill positions. Yeah, I mean, shit.
Well, and Devonta Smith himself, that kid. Well, he ended up finishing with 167 yards receiving too. Yeah. So I mean, just like they just absolutely took care of business.
Oh, that's right. He had like an 87-yard bomb or something like that.
Whatever
Waddle
was
had
it?
a 95. It's just
right.
Yeah, we thought we gave up long pass plays against Bama.
Well, here's the crazy part. If you go back and look at the box scores between Georgia and A&M, about the only difference is we gave up more points, but numbers-wise, I mean, honestly, we performed better against Alabama than Georgia did. But
Georgia's to be commended, and we got embarrassed.
Right.
And that's the narrative.
That's the narrative, and that's the problem with being an established program like Georgia is. It's easy for people to look at Georgia.
Boy, they gave it a good run this year.
Right. Well, like Georgia's sitting here because they're an established playoff team. They're an established team that wins the East on a fairly regular basis. They're a team that at this point in time, right, as of late. So this is a program that's established. Now, if you want to ever get to that point, we have to be competitive in the West. And the problem is, Alabama is the gatekeeper, and you got to be able to
Nick Saban. I'm a firm believer in Nick Saban. When Nick Saban leaves, Alabama will come at least back to earth a little bit.
A little bit.
Here's the problem, and I was. It might have been this morning on TexAgs, or I don't know, when I was driving back and forth to reserves this week, and I listen to sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to win the East because at this point we've seen enough picture of the East to know that it's down to Georgia and Florida. And no offense if we can beat Florida, Georgia can beat Florida.
Yeah.
All right. But Georgia doesn't have the quarterback to beat Alabama. They didn't then, and they don't now. So they'll go back to the SEC championship, and they're going to lose again. And the problem is, when you get two shots at Nick Saban, he normally makes it worse the second time around.
He's shown
you think you're more prepared, and he flips the script and destroys you.
Right.
So, again, I said it. I said that night. I'm like, if you're an A&M fan, and you have any hopes of going to the playoffs, you are absolutely an Alabama fan tonight when they were playing Georgia.
Right.
You have to be.
You have to be.
So
let's go ahead and get in our game a little bit. So Texas A&M, Mississippi State. People, national pundits, whoever, were thinking this potentially could have been a letdown game. Knowing our history, it probably could have been.
It was split, I think, on game day because the one they didn't show on screen was split, or one of the picks, the graphics was wrong or something like that.
They said it was 3-2 in favor of Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And I can understand the logic behind that because A&M, if we're going back in recent history, after a big win, it's typically followed up with a letdown loss because that's what we do well.
Right. So, I'll counter that. Going back in history, we didn't have Jimbo.
No.
All right. Think about the big wins we've had under Jimbo. If we ever had a massive letdown. We beat the teams we're supposed to beat under Jimbo. That's been a thing. That's been a thing now.
Right.
And, ain't going to be like it used to be. That's one of the things. We beat, for the absolute most part, the overwhelming majority, we beat the teams we're supposed to beat.
Right.
So we lose to the Clemsons. We lose to the Alabamas. We lose to the Georgias. But those aren't heartbreaking losses because nobody picked you to win anyways.
No. About the only letdown game we've really had under him was his first year against Auburn on the road when we should have won that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's about the only one I can think of.
So the ones that really we should have won, even then, it's not like we walked in and got our doors blown off. So
no.
My issue is, and this is the counter to all the BAS stuff, and trust me, I've had BAS. I'm a recovering BAS patient. But combined with what we just talked about, not losing the games you're supposed to win.
Right.
And then the fact that I don't really care what Mike Leach did against Texas A&M.
No.
I don't care what happened when A&M went to Starkville when Jimbo wasn't our coach. And I get you're like, well, there's this trend. Well, quit thinking that there's a trend. And I get the national writers saying that, but I'm more referring to all the Ags out there who are like, oh, well, got to go to Starkville, blah, blah. Dude, it wasn't the Starkville that it always is. It's not the same program. The quarterback is bad. The offensive line is maybe the worst offensive line in the SEC. Clearly,
because we bullied them.
Well, we're not the only ones that bullied them either.
No.
Our talent, it was easy to bully them.
Right.
But
other teams have bullied them. Kentucky bullied them.
Yeah, just get over this narrative of, expecting the worst crap, man. We said it. We're going to go in there. We're not going to have any problems. I think I said something like 31-10, 38-10.
I'm about to say.
28-14.
It works.
But let's not forget that relative to just offense on defensive play, like offense lining up and run offensive plays, our defense allowed 7 points.
Right. Our defense allowed 7 points, and let's go ahead and get
6 sacks.
Right, 6 sacks. Here's something that I think is pretty crazy stat, and I'm sure you probably saw it too. But one of my stats that I thought was my favorite stat of the day, how many offensive yards did they get? Did you see?
I saw a number 217 for something.
Yeah, 217. Here's the thing.
That was offensive. That wasn't passing.
That's offensive. That was total offense. It was 217 yards. That's the second lowest total a Mike Leach team has ever had.
His career. Anyway.
Right, and the lowest was 200 against Nebraska in 2000.
Yeah, it's and I get like they don't have the Hogs up front right now. They don't have the manpower on the line.
No,
they don't have a quarterback. But man, getting over 217, that is
that offense.
Honestly, the way that offense is designed, you're gonna luck into some big plays.
Right,
but. We
happen.
removed the luck factor because we played good defense. Were there some mistakes? Absolutely. Stuff to clean up? Absolutely.
Of course. Penalties,
special teams,
issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Until you go through a game with 0 penalties, you can always clean something up.
Right.
But I thought the pick six was an anomaly.
Right. Oh, it was the goofiest thing I've ever seen.
So not only do you have this ball bounce all the way back to the quarterback, but the guy who catches it is the safety that came off the corner. So it's not like this 290-pound defensive tackle.
No.
It's a dude that can blaze.
Right.
And now he's behind everybody.
But it was because literally he missed out, just kind of hung out. He got
lucky.
lucky.
He missed the blitz.
He missed the blitz and got lucky.
Yeah.
It was just a fluke
No
play.
pursuit, no nothing. And then on top, okay, here's an improve. Sustains and improves.
Right.
I got an improve for you. We got to apparently teach Kellen how to tackle.
Right, which
No, seriously, I'm just
big
kidding.
deal. Right.
No, actually, it was a pretty sweet slip move. I'll give him that.
No, give him that.
But it's a freak play. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like it.
It was the goofiest bounce I've seen on a thing, and everybody was. I mean, that's why I hate following along with the game on Twitter whenever it's live.
Oh yeah,
because every single one of you out there on
Going
Twitter
through a pick six.
Well, it's like woof. Wet fart, whelp, all you, whatever. You guys are losing your minds.
All the wet blankets.
It's like, chill out.
Going all over Twitter. Well,
come on.
And it was a pick six by statistics by the box score.
But then we followed it up with 2 touchdowns pretty dang quick.
It's the best momentum you can ever have in a game is when you're able to turn the momentum back in your favor after a negative.
And they did well.
And Jimbo referenced that as well. I think it was his post-game presser. But you have to look. Would you like to see more points? Sure, but we ran the ball a ton, so we ran a lot of clock. I don't know what the possession time was, but I'm sure it was in our favor.
I'm sure it was. To bet. I'm gonna check it.
Spiller got dinged up. Got to see All-Chain out there a little bit.
Yeah.
Anais is again still Anais. Weidermeyer is still Weidermeyer.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see Chase Lane flashing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see that the first game dropsies are just seem to be a thing of the past.
They seem to be a thing of the past, which is awesome.
And you'd like to see more points, but you know what? We gave up 7 points on defense. And we had 6 sacks. I don't know how many batted balls. I don't know how many tackles for loss, but that was defensive dominance against a scheme that can burn you. And one more kudos too, talking about defense, because we talked about this in weeks prior. Elko came ready.
He did, and everybody, last week said, "Oh, well, we need to improve on defense." Well, congratulations, you got it. Now we can say what we want to say. Oh, it's only Mississippi State. Here's the thing: good teams win on the road. Great teams cover the spread on the road, and they did a good job of that. So we will take that.
Well, and the thing I was really impressed with on the defense, that honestly the 2 biggest things I was impressed with, one, getting that much pressure from a 3-man front.
It was impressive.
Just absolute minimum boys up front.
Oh, and look, same thing. -2 yards rushing for the game.
That's like a video game stat.
That's stupid.
And then when Elko dialed up pressure, he dialed it up at all the right times. And what's the biggest complaint? If you're gonna send people, you better get home, right?
Right, always.
And we did. We didn't have 20 sacks, but we had pressure. We collapsed the pocket. We forced him out. We made him throw on the run.
Forced fumbles.
He threw a lot of balls away. So just everything defensively looked great. And I hope it's just one of those things where now as a unit, again, we have a week. Relax. You get an extra week to look at tape against maybe a not surging but improving Arkansas team.
And I guess
it's a surge when you start at the bottom.
Right. And it always feels good going into the bye week with a win because you've got
and a convincing win.
But a convincing win. So now you look at and say, all right, here's the things we've done well. Now let's really buy in and see what the story is on Arkansas and see what we can do to figure that out.
Well, it's funny, we talked about that drive against Florida where we just lined it up and ran it down their throats, right?
And we did it again.
And the commentator said maybe A&M has found its identity. And you looked at when we had the ball against Mississippi State, when we had drives that were just kind of bleh, go back and look at the play calling on those drives.
Pass.
They tried to go majority passing, and when we get back to our running, I tell you, dude,
run the damn ball.
I tell you what, when they are done with the NCAA and have gone on to greener pastures, every single one of those linemen deserves like a rack of ribs on me and a brisket because they are. What have we been saying for years? We have to have improvement this year is on the offensive line.
Right.
Man, if you aren't seeing the improvement on the offensive line, you're not watching the football game.
Maroon Goons are out here kicking ass.
It's so great.
And you can just look at the numbers here. I mean, just offensively, defensively, we can just go down the list here. But, A&M passing-wise was not as hot. We were 13 of 23. Okay, we were averaging 6 yards on the passes. But we only had 23 passing attempts. We ran the ball 34 times. And we were averaging 5.5 yards a rush. I mean, that tells you
there's no reason
to
throw.
No.
If you can average 4 yards a carry, you'll never punt.
No.
So when you're averaging 5.5, there's no reason to put the ball in the air. Like you said, when you throw the ball, 3 things can happen to them are bad.
Right. It happens. So, I mean, if we're running,
sometimes you have to throw. But if you don't have to throw...
When you've got the parts and the pieces to run the ball.
Well, and the best part is when you don't have to throw, you can just line up, run the ball. And when you do it enough, just... over and over and over and over again.
It beats the hell out of the defense.
Well, it beats all the defense, but it opens up passing lanes.
Yes,
Then we don't have to have Kellen throwing in windows that are about an inch and a half wider than the football.
Right.
Like he's done, and he did, and we've seen him do, but it's way easier to not be that stressed under center when you know that because of the running game, somebody's going to be open when it's time to pass.
That's right.
And you know they are because they're having to commit at least one extra body into the box for the run.
Right. And so, kind of looking back on some things, I mean, we talk about, improves. One improve I can certainly say really wasn't that big of a deal, but, their third down efficiency was a little bit better than ours. Yeah, they were 7 of 15.
That's the one signal my buddy and I, he texted me. I was like, dude, I'm not watching the game. I'm playing Army. But,
right.
Because he texted me, and we hadn't texted really throughout the game at all, and I was trying to keep up with it, but I was busy, so that's how I do work. But I get a text that just said, "There's the third in Elko,"
right?
And that's the one that's one improved that, and it's something I would. And there's a reason that people already have a name for it. It's we get these offenses into third and long,
right?
And we have no problem letting them convert.
Which I'm totally cool with us setting some pressure, but at the same time, you've got to be able to keep everybody in front of you.
Like, if you convert a 3rd and 8, I can deal with that. When you're converting 3rd and 13s, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 20.
That's frustrating.
Now we have a problem. Because now you're literally playing it so safe that you're allowing the whole, just keep everything in front of you. Well, that's not working.
No.
So just try anything different. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but I will tell you that your job is to do that.
But overall, really not a lot of complaints outside of that for the defensive side of the ball.
I don't have a lot of complaints on the offensive side of the ball.
So overall, I mean,
special teams,
you got to block the punt. Hell yeah, and it set up an immediate touchdown.
Had a penalty, but I would have loved to see Blumrick with a scoop and score. Connor's such a good kid.
You're
talking about being selfless for your team. I mean, at one point he was on the quarterback depth chart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now he's a tight end playing on special teams. And he's literally doing whatever he can to help his team, and that is some of my favorite stuff.
It's a special thing, man. So
it's like Hansford.
Right.
He's a tight end. Transferred to linebacker, and you know what? He's doing pretty well at linebacker.
Yeah, he's doing great at linebacker. I mean, there's so many great things about this team, and you can see it.
They love playing for each other.
They like playing for each other. And one thing, we think about just kind of the woe is me we had just a few weeks ago after Vanderbilt, and of course the loss at Alabama, and we're out here.
I think we were angrier about a win over Vandy than we were the loss to Bama.
Which, and that's fair. And, for a lot of people, they are going to be angry about that game because, like I said, it was your very first game. You're sitting here, you haven't really had a chance to kind of figure out what your team identity is, what you are. A lot of early season jitters, early game jitters. And it's pretty obvious that this team has figured it out. We figured out that the run works. We look at our defense, and we figured out that for the most part, outside of us getting burned by some of the best wide receivers in football, at Alabama, we've played pretty well. So
and Georgia got burned by him too.
Georgia got burned by him
Georgia
too.
got burned by him worse.
Well, yeah, no,
but you know what? That was an okay loss though for Georgia.
I mean, it's a great loss. That's why they only fell to 4.
And we should probably shut down the program for losing Alabama.
Yeah, but see, that's
wait. There might be another way.
There might be.
So yeah, honestly, I'm happy. I really am. And people, there's always gonna be gripes, and I could go back and spend hours looking at the game film. There are certainly things that I know that I could pick apart, but I'm happy with the win. I'm thrilled with the defensive performance.
Yeah,
Kellen did enough to. I mean, that pick again, just freakish.
Right, and honestly, it's one of those deals where I will never complain about an SEC win on the road, especially in a place where we have, within the last several years, have struggled. We've only won one game in Starkville. But before this one,
winning by 1 point on the road at Missouri this year would upset me. I don't think we played Missouri.
No, we don't.
Yeah, but that might be one that would upset me.
That would have upset you, but like I said, overall, I'll take
still.
wins. I'll take wins on the road every day of the week because it's the SEC. There are goofy things that happen on the road, and I mean, of course, there's goofy things that happen.
Well, it's 2020, so everything's goofy.
Everything's goofy.
I mean, take a look. I mean, the only two teams right now, and we might see Ohio State do it once they decide to start joining the real world and playing football. Alabama and Clemson are the only two that are truly full-blown taking care of business.
And they've shown it every week. I mean, about the only real hiccup was Ole Miss putting up all the yardage and the points that they did. But But
then they showed that they could win a shootout, which is frightening.
Right, exactly. You have Alabama, who maybe their defense is not as potent as years past.
But that still makes it better than most defenses you see.
But it's still good defense. And on top of that, you have an offense which is playing to a caliber which is scary. So, I mean, you got Clemson, who's shown that they've got great offense and fantastic defense. And so that's why it's going to be interesting to see how some of these matchups go.
Again, Clemson defense, who they play, kind of thing.
Well, exactly.
We don't know but we know they can score, and they can hold crappy teams to not very many points. So obviously, it's Clemson and Bama again this year. That's all there is to it. I don't think Ohio State is starting so late. I mean, you got to realize now we're in the dead swing of things, and by the time we get to conference championship games and playoff games, we'll be rolling, whereas they'll be 5 weeks behind in all that prep and time and playing and cohesion and game situations as opposed to practice situations.
Which really makes it interesting to me is, like, does that throw off the SEC and everybody else because they're going to be more fresh coming into the thought process of, all right, we've been playing consistently going into the playoff where we're probably going to be sitting around for a few weeks.
I think it goes both ways. They might be, as we're sitting around waiting, maybe the advantage slides to them. But while you're sitting around waiting, you know what else you're doing?
You're watching film.
You're watching film and you're healing from a slate that was 10 SEC games. Your football schedule was a 10 SEC game schedule. So you have a couple weeks to lick your wounds too, on top of watching tape. So I think the advantage ultimately falls to, honestly,
probably
luck favors the prepared.
Yeah.
And so
safe to say.
And we were clearly more prepared than the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to play football, and everything you've seen so far has continued to show that. And I think when we get into the postseason, you'll again continue to see that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So getting into this gives us an opportunity to kind of look at what's coming up this next week, I think. But so obviously we're real happy with
I'm thrilled.
Great performance.
I can pick it apart, but you know what? It's nice to relax and just enjoy a win. And I think
it was a good one.
I think some people out there probably need to do that a little bit more often.
Yeah. Well, it's just it just feels like
and that was us after Vandy.
Right, it was us after Vandy. At the end of the day, wins are wins, and it doesn't matter how you get them. That's the important stat line. You can nitpick on it all day long, but
and the people that vote don't just most of the people that vote and take it seriously don't just look at the score. They'll go back and look at clips, and they'll see that. We didn't win by 14 and squeak by. We dominated on defense. Mm-hmm. We just kind of slow played it on offense. Mm-hmm. So, these are games where, unfortunately, there are definitely style points when it comes to the polls in college football. There always has been. But, there's more time. Everybody's got more time right now, right?
That's right.
And these voters and these people, for the most part, that have any influence over this process, have more time to look at this stuff and go over tape and really get the whole picture. The big picture of teams as opposed to just what you're seeing on the scoreboard and maybe some box scores.
Yeah, so okay, that's good stuff. I'm way 100% behind you on that. So I kind of want to take a quick look at next week. Obviously we'll touch on Arkansas pretty much in depth next week's podcast. But before that, I do want to kind of highlight some games that are coming up this next week. Whether they're relevant or not, whether they actually have a lot of flack or not, we'll find out. But Big Ten does start next week. They're getting it going. Actually, our first game will be on Friday night this week, the 23rd. Wisconsin's hosting Illinois.
Playing with the high schoolers.
That's right.
Friday night.
That's right. Friday Night Lights up at Camp Randall. You got Wisconsin hosting Illinois. It's like
bucket list. Camp Randall.
I really want to. If there's one series right now, if you had to tell me A&M could schedule somebody at home and home, that's one. I want Wisconsin so bad.
In September, I don't want it late season.
No, I want it September, so it's still relatively
not
pleasant.
snowing.
Yeah. And so that's definitely a game I want. But I think Wisconsin's going to cruise.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to think or look at any sort of matchups from the Big Ten because given what we saw with the 3 P5s that played,
right,
the first week is going to be goofy. There's no way to know what teams really did in their off time. And Minnesota might come out and torch Wisconsin. It's been weird.
Illinois.
Illinois. But it's just been weird,
Yeah, no, for sure.
What Wisconsin and Minnesota don't play at the end of the year. That's what Paul Bunyan's ex.
Yeah, but a lot of the rivalries are screwy.
That too.
So we'll see what happens. But Nebraska's going to Ohio State's kicking off the year.
Well, I will say this: I fully expect Ohio State to win that game.
They should. I mean, they're 26-point favorites, so you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's 11 a.m. on Fox. That's gonna be.
Best team in the conference. You're playing at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
it's supposedly one of the best teams in the country.
Can't relate. Sorry about y'all.
Seriously.
But then you got because Fox is out here trying to sell that their premier spots at 11 o'clock because they know they can't compete with CBS.
CBS or ESPN in the 6:30 slots.
Yeah, so they know they can't.
You have to pump up that 11 a.m. like your life depends on it. And to an extent, maybe that football contract depends on them being able to do that.
Right, exactly. But you have North Carolina, NC State, so North Carolina rivalry coming up.
No clue after what FSU did to North Carolina.
No. You're looking at a 16-point favorite, but they're both ranked. So,
I'll take North Carolina.
I would think North Carolina too. But they're both. North Carolina State's 4-1. North Carolina's 3-1. Might be a tough game.
I don't know.
16-point favorite to UNC.
I don't know that I'd ever pick a 16-point spread in a rivalry game.
No. I think NC State at least makes it interesting. Kansas State. Well,
whoop-a-dee-doo.
Whoop-diddy-doo.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Les Miles though.
Yeah, why not? Make it weird.
I love the chaos.
I love the chaos. Georgia, Southern, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is still undefeated. Who cares? Marshall's undefeated against FAU. Who cares? Okay, well, the third Saturday, I guess it will be the third Saturday in October.
Yeah.
They kept that tradition going. It's Alabama at Tennessee. Alabama's 21-point favorites. So they're going to be smoking cigars. We all know that.
That's going to be a mauling on TV.
And it's CBS. Why would you put that at CBS 2:30?
Because it's out. Well,
God.
Because the other there's only 4 SEC matchups this week.
Oh,
and
God.
the other 3 of them suck.
Exactly. That's fair. But
Alabama, Tennessee, despite that it's going to be an absolute bloodlet,
right?
It's an old rivalry.
So, ironically, here's probably a game that could decide the Big 12 this year, which I would not have picked these two teams to do it. Iowa State and Oklahoma State.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma State's got it going, which is why I think Iowa State wins, because I don't think the Big 12 can get out of their own way.
No, Oklahoma State's a 3.5-point favorite at home on Fox at 2:30.
3.5-point favorite at home. You're really not favored at home.
Not
you get
really.
3 points for being at home.
Yeah.
So they're basically just picking them to win.
So, Iowa State. I like Cyclones.
I'm telling you, the way the Big 12 season has gone, it makes 100% sense for the Cyclones to go in there and win by 15.
I'm down with it. Come on. You're welcome, Travis. Love you. Penn State, Indiana. Don't care.
It's a better basketball game, probably.
Probably. I'd say that's a lot of these. Virginia Tech, Wake Forest.
No, VTech.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what their line is. Minnesota.
Although Wake Forest will always be like one of my favorite mascots.
Oh, sure. Demon Deacons?
I think the Demon Deacons is
that's
just
so
really.
good.
I always thought that was cool.
Yeah. Then you have Minnesota and Michigan. That's at Minnesota. Michigan's
I tell you what,
point favorite.
That might be one to keep an eye on because Harbaugh has worn on that fan base and on that donor base.
Yeah.
Harbaugh is this combination of arrogant and awkward, and that's a really bad combo when you're not even challenging Ohio State.
And they will be playing outdoor at Minnesota Stadium. It's not going to be like in the dome.
That's a pretty field they got up there.
Yeah, it's a great field. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I would keep an eye on that score because if Minnesota wins, all of the Fox pregame and postgame shows for their huge 11 a.m. matchups are going to center around Harbaugh being on the hot seat.
Yeah, of course. Virginia at Miami. I mean, I'm thinking Miami probably.
Yeah, I still believe in Miami. I mean, I think they're good. I think they're a good team. I think King is a good quarterback. I think he's so dynamic that he can win games by himself. Virginia's probably better at lacrosse than they are at football.
Oh, probably.
Virginia actually is a lacrosse powerhouse, by the way.
They are.
Them and Johns Hopkins. Now you know.
Okay, interesting matchup here. A pair of undefeateds in the American Athletic Conference. That's going to be Cincinnati at SMU. SMU's a 2.5 point.
That should be a really, really good game.
It's going to be.
It's at SMU.
It's at SMU.
Yeah, SMU's favored by 2.5 at home.
Dude, I mean,
it's a coin flip.
I mean, if I didn't have anything else going on, I might go up to that game if there's tickets available.
Be a lot of points.
There's real possibility.
A lot of points.
Oh man, and then
that Memphis UCF game was a blast.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game.
No, that was last week. It was Memphis UCF. Wasn't that the one? That's the Memphis play. That was a blast. Yeah. And that SMU game will be the same. Yeah. I bet you it's 50-something to 50-something.
Yep. And then you got Texas State at BYU. BYU's going to roll. Sorry.
Go Texas State.
Sorry, Bobcats. I mean, hope you play well. But
man, you never know.
You never know.
Southwest Texas State may pull it off.
They might.
Texas State or whatever.
Yeah, Southwest Texas.
Southwest Texas, and then it was Texas State.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I guess let's go ahead and look at our other three SEC matchups for the week. I mean, obviously none of them are really all that interesting. You've got Auburn at Ole Miss. You think Auburn? It's on the road.
I think Ole Miss will actually win this game.
There's a chance. Auburn's a 3-point favorite on the road.
I think if you force Bo Nix to get into a shootout, he's going to make a lot of mistakes.
I think you're right.
And I think Lane Kiffin is the definition of forcing you into a shootout.
Yeah.
I like Ole Miss in that one. Yeah, I'll take Ole Miss.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss.
I'm just going to pick win and lose. I'm not going to pick spreads.
That's fair. I mean, personally, I think Auburn, but I think Ole Miss is definitely going to make it competitive.
They're knocking on the door, in some games.
Okay, Battle of Cats over here. You got Wildcats in Missouri at Missouri.
You'd be crazy not to pick Kentucky after what you saw against Tennessee combined with what you've seen out of Missouri.
Right. Well, I mean, other than Missouri, yes, you took down LSU, but I mean, who's not going to?
I think Tulane can do that this year.
Honestly,
LSU may not be the best football team in the state of Louisiana.
They already aren't. I mean, Louisiana Lafayette. I would argue Louisiana Lafayette and Tulane are both better than LSU.
That's brutal.
I mean, because
and by brutal I mean ha ha ha.
I mean, hell. Tulane, I don't think they're ranked, but I mean, Louisiana Lafayette was ranked until last week. I mean, damn. And then you got South Carolina at LSU.
I think South Carolina stays on a roll.
You think they do?
I think they do. I hate to say this, I would like to see LSU knock them down.
It'd be something.
Because we got South Carolina the week after, right?
Yeah. Well, not that week, not that next week, but
no, excuse me. We got Arkansas on Halloween.
Yeah, we have Arkansas on Halloween, but it'll be South Carolina after that.
Well, if that's the case, as long as South Carolina doesn't have a bye before us, I don't know the bye schedule.
I don't think they do.
But I just want South Carolina to lose, one of the next two games before us.
Right. So they're not like super hot coming in.
Yeah, I don't want to see them like banging on all cylinders.
No.
I don't really like rooting for LSU, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings for LSU to accidentally find themselves one game.
Yeah.
Or just kind of crap themselves into a victory, which I think is probably more likely, if they're going to win, it's probably more likely they accidentally win.
Right. So, I mean, that's what I got there. I mean, South Carolina at LSU. Other than that, that's pretty much the week.
Slate of games is... It's chill, though.
It's chill.
We don't even have to, be fully tuned into the SEC either.
Not really. I mean...
The games aren't any good. Not, literally... I mean, they might be competitive games, except for the Alabama game.
Right.
So, the Ole Miss game might be fun to watch.
Yeah.
And... you can do a little scouting. Crack a beer, fire the grill up, and watch some SEC football because we got plenty of opponents playing on Saturday.
Feel free
future opponents.
Yeah, feel free to tweet at coaches. Be like, hey, hope you guys are watching so and so.
Yeah. Hold the coaches accountable on Twitter. That's always a good look.
Yeah, great look. Just kidding. Don't actually. Do that,
please don't. But again,
we do not endorse anything that we actually say on the podcast to do in real.
No. But yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting the boat this weekend. If the weather hold up, I might run it around Lake Bryan just to kind of get my feel for it. And, I can't say I've ever driven a Bayliner, so that's gonna be fun.
That'll be fun.
But I had something. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I was going to go with the most surprising, your most surprising team or teams so far, whether that's good or bad.
Okay.
What's like your most surprising team so far?
Arkansas, man. Like, if we're being perfectly honest.
Just in the last week, though.
Well, no, honestly, Arkansas, I mean, they played Georgia tight week 1. And they've played, honestly, relatively well. I think, other than one of the, I guess, how many losses?
I think actually a better way for you to phrase that is Sam Pittman has been a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, no, Sam Pittman has been a surprise.
Arkansas is going to be a problem.
Arkansas is going to be a problem.
Not this year.
No, but eventually. Arkansas might be moderately competitive in the SEC, which is irritating for everybody.
It is.
But trust me, it's like the last thing we need is another West team finding their identity. I mean, literally coming into this year. Let's just go ahead and go down that list of the damn coaches that came into the league this year. You had Sam Pittman. Everybody's like, oh, he's going to be the weakest one of the bunch.
All we talked about was the Mississippis. That's all we talked about.
I'm about to say, you had... I mean, God, you had Mike Leach coming into the league. Everybody was like, oh, shit, here he comes. And then you had Lane Kiffin coming in here.
And then the next thing we talked about was LSU losing all their coaches.
Right.
LSU
could be bottom barrel.
It might have been like 3 or 4 weeks before I knew that Arkansas had hired Sam Pittman.
Right.
Arkansas just doesn't move my dial. They don't need to. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
We don't beat them.
Right.
But yeah, you know what? Arkansas is a good one. I like that.
I would say Arkansas is probably the most surprising for me, honestly. Just because we have always looked at, I mean, I say always, but within the last 5-6 years, Arkansas is a bottom of the barrel team.
They're the doormat. It's a conference game, but you're 90% confident you're going to get a win, even though it's going to stress you out. You're going to beat them.
Right. Yeah, especially if it's Texas A&M at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, that may change a little.
Yeah.
I'm so glad not to be playing there.
Oh, I know. Thank goodness that game's at Kyle Field. Holy cow. But, I mean, that's probably my biggest surprise. What about yours?
I've got 2, one bad and one good. I think my biggest surprise bad has been OU.
Oklahoma, yeah, I mean...
Because I'm kind of a believer in Lincoln Riley, and right now, and I was a believer in Spencer Rattler, and he's already been benched a couple times.
Yeah.
So I think OU's probably been the biggest surprise in the sense that I didn't think they were going to be world beaters.
No.
But, man, they look like dog shit.
I was about to say, you get into a shootout against the Texas team, let's go ahead and face it. I mean, personally...
And win it to get back to 500.
Right. You win it to get back to 500, and let's face it, I don't think Texas is that good. Sam Ehlinger is good, but you don't have a defense.
Yeah, well, I don't think you have any team unity at this point. I think a lot about that program is fractured.
Well, I mean, yeah, and you're seeing it from top to bottom just within the fan base of people that are already done with Tom Herman. And it's like, holy cow. And there's so many guys, even on Twitter, that are just convinced. We're going to go out and get Urban Meyer. We're going to go out and get whoever.
I don't think Urban coaches again.
I don't think he coaches again.
I think he honors his, of all the integrity issues that Urban Meyer's had over the years in relative to his coaching. Yeah. Apparently, he made a very specific promise to his daughters that he wouldn't coach again due to his health. And I think he honors. I think he honors that. I have another surprise, but it's been in the positive. But this is going to sound weird that this is a surprise to me, but it is. I am surprised that Clemson is that good.
Right.
Like,
we knew they were number one, but they're destroying people.
They're putting up video game numbers. The scoreboards look like when you picked up NCAA 14 and made your team and rolled with it.
Right.
So I think I'm not upset. I'm not pleasantly surprised. I knew they were going to be good, but holy shit, man.
Well, so Clemson is fully on into reload mode at all times. It's not a rebuild over there ever because they just have a constant flow of top-level recruits coming in and good coaching. It's
impressive that Dabo's gotten Clemson to that point.
And it takes time.
And you can tell, and the people that followed Clemson for 60 years, you're like, well, let me tell you about the heyday. Dude, the heyday don't mean shit. No. You know how I know that? Because Earl Campbell didn't run for 130 yards in the Cotton Bowl this past Saturday.
No.
So the heyday doesn't matter shit.
No, right now, literally Clemson, you are hitting your peak as a program, which is a good thing because you are now at a point where your program is comfortable enough to...
When you lose Dabo.
Right, when you lose Dabo. But right now... your program is at a point where you are comfortable enough winning on a regular basis in your conference. Now, granted, we can say XYZ about the ACC's depth and just, how the rest of the conference is competitive, but you are on a specific level where you are out here just absolutely creaming people at all times.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, they're not just beating the teams they're supposed to beat, they're destroying them. And then you combine that with See, I think the ACC is building depth right now.
Right.
So, like, I think Manny Diaz has got Miami on the right trajectory. I think he has for a while. I don't think that's a bad thing when Miami's good. I think maybe it's a bad thing if Miami wants to turn into the old U where they want to beat everybody up at the 50-yard line before games.
Right.
But Manny Diaz isn't going to allow that. He likes a little bit of the swagger at Miami, but he's not being crazy about it. So I think you got Miami. Mac Brown, he may not ever build a championship team, but he's going to build that program back up to a formidable opponent. And when he leaves, he'll have it set up. Yeah. Virginia Tech is going to bounce back. So you have some teams
in a conference.
You have more than just like one or two. You really do.
You do. And
Florida State can't be bad forever. They just can't.
No, there are certain programs out there that are just programs that, by definition, are going to be around. Florida State is one of those programs. As much as we like to poke fun at them, Texas is one of those programs. There's just
they can't be down forever.
You can't be down forever.
USC, another one.
Yeah,
USC West.
Yeah. Sorry, Gamecocks, not y'all. Yeah. But you look at the Pac-12. I mean, USC for sure. Stanford is going to be up there. Oregon's going to be up there. And the reason
Oregon's relatively new though, but they've established themselves.
But they've established themselves because they established themselves in a similar way to how Miami did, just without the championship.
I'll give you one more in the Pac-12. Washington's
a good program.
Washington Huskies is a good program. And when things are done right there, they can be very succcsul.
Yeah, and as much as they are kind of isolated up there all by themselves,
it works for them though.
It works for them.
Yeah, it works really well for them. And, out of the Big Ten, Ohio State is what it is. Michigan, despite them hiring Harbaugh, they're not going to stay down for long. Wisconsin, because they've kind of established themselves, Wisconsin is able to remain that above average, difficult opponent to line up against.
Right. And
Penn State, we saw that. Right. Penn State hit bottom of the barrel. Granted, it was for some awful stuff.
Terrible stuff, yes.
But Penn State, because of who they are, they've been able to build themselves back up. I don't want to call it the Blue Bloods because you have to win more frequently, but these are they're nationally recognizable programs that the brand in and of itself has enough power to not necessarily build the program back up to where you're winning national championships like Nick Saban is, because that is never going to happen again.
No.
I'll just go on record saying what Saban is doing will never be done again.
No.
But there's programs out there. I mean, you saw Florida. Florida was in the tank, and now Dan Mullen's gone out there in Florida. It's a big name.
It's a good program.
And it's in a state where 3 major universities can sustain themselves with recruiting. Miami, Florida State, Florida. The Mississippis are. They have to gamble. See, they have to gamble with stuff like their coaching hires. Georgia Tech, they're not always great. When they were really good is way back in the day when the triple option was really good.
Right.
But Georgia Tech always has that ability just because by name and really strength of its school and Georgia Tech.
And location.
And well, you have location, right? Georgia Tech can be good here and there. And you look at the SEC and you kind of see that everywhere. Same with Arkansas.
Sure.
Look at the Big 12 though, and what are the names you kind of like?
You automatically gravitate to Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, but no, absolutely, but. What then? Like who?
Well, I mean, even then, Oklahoma, people will
Kansas is a basketball school.
Kansas is a basketball school. Kansas State had a moment in the 90s. You look at...
Bill Snyder's long gone, man.
Right, and you look at Oklahoma State, who, yes, within the last decade have been competitive, but they're not really...
They're not winning anything of substance.
They're not winning anything of substance. Texas Tech has very, very...
Texas Tech's a wild card.
Right, they're a wild card. Every once in a while, I mean, back when they had Leach, whatever.
Kingsbury was...
Kingsbury, you'll have a moment, but that's about it. I mean, it's certainly not going to be TCU. It's certainly not going to be Baylor. It's not
going to be the Southwest Conference team. So the Big 12 has really set themselves up for complete failure.
Right.
So you have 2 teams every year, 2. And then maybe an Iowa State one year has a good year.
Yeah.
And then maybe
Oklahoma State has a good
year. State, maybe, out of nowhere, West Virginia has a good year. But you have these programs that... West Virginia, basketball school.
Sure.
Kansas, basketball school. Kansas State.
What are they?
I don't really know what they're known for.
I mean,
Bill Snyder.
Bill Snyder and farming. Way to go.
Oklahoma State, they got Gundy.
And they got good basketball.
Got good basketball. Decent. Well, they were decent in baseball.
Traditionally good baseball school. Yeah.
So Oklahoma State's one of those where they're always going to be average to above average in everything they do, and they might have a peak here or there. But, like you said, TCU.
Baseball? That's what they're good at.
So, relative to the sport that really drives the conference and drives the revenues, you have 2 schools in that entire conference. In the Pac-12, what did we say? UW, Stanford, USC, UCLA is another one. Yeah, we didn't say UCLA.
Yeah, we didn't
it's
say
a
UCLA,
huge name program.
It's a big name.
That if they make the right hire, they can get rolling.
Sure, and like I said, location there, big deal.
Yeah, so it's not real hard to recruit to UCLA.
LA, not a chance. Yeah. Southern California.
I still have no idea how the University of Hawaii doesn't win the national championship every year.
Yeah. You'd think.
Just come play for 2 years. I don't know why.
Well, here's the thing. Like you talk about.
They're in a crap conference.
Well, exactly. You talk about conference expansion. If I were the Pac-12, truly, and granted, it's not a big name recognizable school, but Hawaii wouldn't be the worst grab.
I think you grab Hawaii, and I think you grab San Diego State.
I would say first. San Diego State, but this is just me speaking from my location, but University of New Mexico is not a terrible hire, especially for the idea. They're a great basketball school.
Football-wise, I can see them getting New Mexico State first.
New Mexico State would be interesting. The problem is New Mexico State, just nobody wants them. And it's really frustrating because overall they're not a terrible program.
BYU won't join a conference.
No, because, they're...
Well, their religious rules honestly dictate when they play sports.
Right, so, it just kind of makes sense. But
so I just kind of love talking randomly about football,
we don't exactly have any football to talk about for us this weekend, so...
No, it's going to be nice, honestly.
It's kick back.
Yeah, go...
Order out, have some fun.
Go shooting, go hop out on the lake, sit at home, sleep in, do nothing.
Theoretically, Texas is playing Baylor, so,
Yeah, well, if Baylor can stop testing positive for COVID.
God, man, have they even played a game yet?
I don't even think they have. No, they played one.
They may have played one.
They played one, yeah. But yeah, so dude, I'm happy with the win. I think the win was better than the optics. I think defensively, I'm thrilled.
Oh, sure.
I think offensively, I'm just fine.
Yeah.
Get out of Starkville with a win, a convincing win. I never thought the game was really ever truly in danger. It didn't matter what the score was or what the circumstance was. I just knew it. I knew that we could do what we needed to do to get the win in Stark Vegas, and they did.
And just
flat out.
Kind of highlighting what we're getting into next week. I think if we can win by 2 scores against Arkansas, I'm going to be happy, and it's weird to say that.
Well, the game's here, but it's Halloween night, but it's Arkansas, blah.
Yeah, there's so many factors.
Yeah, I'd like to see, a 14-point win or more. I could live with a 10-point win.
Sure.
I really could.
I mean, I can live with a win, but yes.
I just I'd like double digits, and I don't want to have to see any sort of mounting a massive 2-score comeback. What I want to see is game control, and I want to see it on both sides of the ball. And if you do that, we're going to win by 2 touchdowns or more. So, but again, we'll get into Arkansas next week.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk more about just holding on to the ball, which is, I think, pretty much the only thing you have to do.
And, like I said, we're going to have a little bit of free time this next week. So, I mean, if we're going to highlight our game, sure. But if y'all have anything that you really want us to talk about, you have any questions about us or anything else that if you've missed our previous podcasts, feel free to check those out. They're all, they're already all on Spotify. They're uploaded right now on YouTube as well. So feel free to drop in on those. But if you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them. I'm happy to go over anything y'all need.
Yeah, I don't have much other than the fact that tomorrow I'm getting interviewed by the Boz.
Woo!
Yeah, Brian Bosworth. So I got a phone call from a production company, and they're putting together this series. It's 8 bucket list college towns. So obviously College Station, and Gabe. They contacted Gabe over TexAgs, and he gave him my number.
That's
and,
cool.
So they're coming to the restaurant. We're gonna just interview and talk about, let's talk about traditions. Talk about A&M. Why it's a bucket list town.
Well, it'd be good to ask him because one of the early recruiting spots he was looking at was A&M back in the day.
Yeah, well, I don't think he got the Trans Am.
No. He did get the Trans Am in the mail.
That's probably why he didn't. Yeah, I mean, granted, we're still batting 0 for giving Trans Ams out, but
right. That's still one of the greatest stories in college football.
Tell you what, if you've never seen Pony Excess, it's the ESPN 30 for 30. It's called Pony Excess. It's about when SMU was paying their players and what got them into the death penalty. I highly, highly recommend you watch it. It's fascinating.
It's incredible. And,
But, I'm getting interviewed by the Boz. They were like, and by the way, the host of the show is Brian Bosworth. And I almost dropped the phone. This producer girl, I can tell she's super young, but she's still kind of geeked out because this is what she does, so she knows kind of who he is.
Right.
So, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. I'm going to try to get some sleep tonight, to be honest.
Well, that's going to be awesome, and you'll have to definitely drop a link on that. We'll be sure to post it as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's...
Well, and it's Taco Tuesday tomorrow, so, you already got a reason to be there.
Get your tacos, guys.
If you can get there at 11:30, Bosworth might still be around.
Shoot, I may have to drop in if I get a chance.
Get a picture with him.
Yeah, I'd say. He's one of one of my first schools I looked at potentially going to was Oklahoma, so I did a lot of research, and his name popped up quite a bit.
Well, he was. What's interesting about him is he was really one of the first college players, and as he went pro, that established his own brand.
Yeah, he was a personality.
He was the Boz was a brand. And there's a picture of him, and I think it was before a bowl game or something. And he's out warming up, so he's got his pads, his pants with his pads on, but he's just got his white undershirt on.
Uh-huh.
And he'd written on it in black marker on his shirt. He wrote out NCAA, and it was National Criminals Against Athletes.
Right.
So he was also the first person I've ever seen just have the sack to go out on national television. Tell the NCAA they're a bunch of criminals.
Right.
But
it's incredible. So we'll definitely need to check that out.
We'll link it up.
So, hey, guys, we appreciate you guys listening in. Of course,
enjoy the bye week.
Yeah, enjoy the bye week.
Enjoy the win going into the bye week.
That's right. Be sure to follow us on our socials. You know what we are at this point. And
share it out.
Share it out. We love you all.
Tell your friends. We're terrible. We're a terrible listen. So if you're stuck in traffic and you're already miserable, tell your friends. Be like, I have a podcast for you.
Yeah. So, guys, we love y'all. Take care. Be safe. Wear those masks as needed. But go out and vote.
Yeah, vote.
Go vote. All that fun shit. We'll catch y'all later.
All right.
Yeah.